Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy Simpson, and I am Madill's Associate Director of Special Events. And we're very happy to have you here for our High School Journalism Live program. And today is a very popular program. It is with real Medill students. We have a great panel of current students for you to talk to and pick their brain and hear what it's like to be a Medill student, a Northwestern student, and what activities you can get involved in and what the curriculum's like. And they'll address all sorts of great questions from you, I'm sure. So I just want to go over a couple of our housekeeping things today. We ask that you please remain on mute during the program and enter any questions you have in the chat area down below. Also, at the excuse me, at the end of our program, we will be drawing a name randomly from the list of registrations and that person will be the lucky winner of a Northwestern Medill baseball hat. And I'll be sending that to the winner this afternoon. So please stay on till the end of our program. We'll do that right at the very end, and you should be here in order to win. And lastly, I think that's all we have. We are recording this, and you will automatically get a link to the recording in about a week after we add the captions for accessibility. And some other people who weren't able to attend today will also get that link recording. And without further delay, I'd like to introduce Beth Bennett, who is our Associate Dean of Journalism. Hi, Beth.
Hello, thanks, Stacy. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad that you are with us today. Before we get started, I wanted to just quickly say thank you for your interest in this and just honor that this is a really, really important time to be practicing journalism, whether we're student journalists, professional journalists. I can't think of a more important time for us to be practicing journalism. And we're glad you're here. Some of you may have contacted us or may have been in touch with us because you're interested potentially in pursuing journalism education, which is fantastic. There are many, many wonderful programs out there. If you're thinking about Madeill, we offer Madeill information sessions. We offer this regularly, and we will put into the chat information about how you can sign up for an info session if you wanted to learn more about Madeill. Our early decision deadline, if you are a senior, is just right around the corner. It's November 1, so it's coming up, but there's certainly still time if this is something that you're interested in. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Fiona Sykes from Medill Student Services, and she will lead our student panel today. Thanks so much and welcome.
Thank you so much, Beth. Hi, everyone. As Beth mentioned, my name is Fiona Sykes, and I work within Medill Student Services as an advisor for Medill students. So we are really excited to have all of you here with us today, and the panel is going to be really led by each of you. So we want to know what you want to know from our students, and so we're going to have each of our three Medill students that we've invited to this panel today introduce themselves as they're seeing themselves and as they're talking a little bit about who they are and what they do at Medill. We would love for each of you to kind of put a question into the chat box, and I will kind of be looking at the chat box and be seeing the questions, and depending on what we have, we hope that we can get to all of them, but we will at least get to some of them. So please send for questions in through the chat box as the students are introducing themselves. Without further ado, Andrew, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And then Joey and Chris, you can go next. Okay. Wonderful.
Sure. What's up, everybody? My name is Andrew Golden. I'm a senior. I'm senior at Northwestern. I'm studying journalism and American Studies. I am from Reisterstown, Maryland, which is about 30 minutes outside of Baltimore. I am interested in sports journalism specifically. I've been writing for the Daily Northwestern since the winter of my freshman year. I've always loved sports. I always played them growing up, and then decided once I couldn't play anymore that I went to write about it. So that's what I for a while. So like I said, I've been working for the Daily, and the reason I came to Madeill was the opportunities that Madeill presented for me inside and outside of the classroom. Obviously inside like the great instructors and teachers, but outside through the journalism residencies, through the opportunities that Medill presents with student organizations and just the extra colleagues you can do in terms of reporting. All those things kind of stood out to me, and that's why I loved applying to Medill and going here. And it's kind of been everything that I wanted it to be. So whatever questions y'all have, definitely feel free to ask me about them. So.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joey Safchak. I'm also a senior here in Medill. I major in journalism and international studies, and I minor in political science. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I focus on broadcast journalism. I do a lot of political reporting in that sphere. I'm the news director of Northwestern News Network, which is our student-run broadcast news station. So if you have any questions, broadcast or video journalism, I would love to answer them. I came to Madeill. I knew that this was my dream school since the 6th grade. I really wanted a school where I could pursue journalism and also have a well-rounded, top-notch education. I knew I would want to have a double major, which is really common in Madeill. And the curriculum really spoke to me in terms of how hands-on and tactile it is. Even in COVID, we're still finding ways to do our reporting and do it well. So please send us any questions you have. Chris?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Vasquez. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm also a senior at Northwestern. I'm majoring in journalism and minoring in creative writing. And my area of focus is primarily digital video journalism. I also do a lot of documentary work and some podcasting work. So if you have any questions about Madeill or about a kind of multimedia and digital journalism, I'm happy to answer any of those. The reason I chose Madeill is because I was pretty active in my high school journalism program, and I just wanted a place where A, that was recognized as a top journalism school, and B, I really liked that Madeill, as opposed to other journalism schools, didn't necessarily make you choose a track in terms of what kind of journalism you wanted to pursue. And I definitely wasn't married to any sort of form that I wanted to pursue going into Madeill. So I like that the school kind of gave me the room to play around and explore, and I was passionate about.
Thanks so much, Chris. That's really helpful. And thank you, Andrew and Joey, too. Okay, so we do have quite a few questions in the chat. I'm going to start with a question from Olivia, and each of you can answer this, Andrew, Joey, or Chris, or if you feel like one person answered adequately, we can move on to the next question after that. But you all can choose kind of who's going to answer which question. So could you each think about what day-to-day life looks like as a student journalist and talk a little bit about that? That's a question from Olivia. So maybe you should talk. Yeah, Joey, you got it. Okay.
I'll jump in. Yeah, sure. So you take a lot of classes here at Northwestern, and not all of them are going to be in Madeill. On average, you'll take like about 15 courses in Madeill. So you'll have a really well-rounded curriculum and education. And if journalism is your thing, I knew coming here that I wanted to pursue journalism, I wanted to study journalism. So I've really built my Northwestern experience around that. I do my classes, it's not like high school, you can make your classes during the times of day that suit you best. You focus on what you're really interested in. I knew that math was not modeling, so I never took a math class here. I took formal studies for political science, which was really beneficial and got my brain working in a more formal kind of way, in a non-humanities kind of way, but it was still really applicable to something I'm interested in. So there are lots of ways to choose classes that really speak to and interest you. And then I think something that all three of us are really involved in is our student publication. That's really been formative for me and defined my experience here at Northwestern. So whenever I'm not in class, I'm dedicating most of my time to Northwestern News Network. I always joke that I've literally fallen asleep in our beautiful studio numerous days. That's only sort of a joke. But yeah, so that's where I spend most of my free time. I think most of the student publications, you'll get out of them what you put into them. So if you decide that this is your home on campus and you want to spend every waking hour doing it, you can do that. There is space for you and you will be encouraged and supported. I fell very much into that category myself. My best friends have come from Northwestern News Network. I think most of us feel like it's our publication. We've grown immensely as journalists, but it's also sort of our social home here on campus, and we've grown a lot as people as well. So that is usually where I spend my out of class time. Also, just enjoying Evanston when the weather is above 50 degrees, taking walks along the Lakeville, and Evanston is an amazing college town, and Chicago's a short train ride away. So I think we all try to take advantage of that as much as humanly possible. And that's wonderful for our reporting. We can go out there and there are infinite stories to tell that haven't been told before.
Thanks so much, Joey. Andrew or Chris, do you have anything that you want to add to that, or should we go to the next question? You can just thumbs up if it's the next question.
Yeah, I feel like Joey kind of covered it for the most part. So I feel like that.
Okay, perfect. So this next question is one that is probably applicable to many of you. Lily asked, are there any internships or programs through Medill that are open to high school students? Andrew, I'm hoping that maybe you can talk a little bit about your experience in the Cherubs program. And then I also see Roger is here. So Roger, if you want to try to add anything after Andrew, that would be great.
Yeah, so I did Medill Cherubs the summer before it's always before the summer before your senior year of high school. It's like a 5-week journalism program that I participated in. It was a great time coming into Cherubs. I worked for my student newspaper, but I'd never actually reported before. So like actually having to reach out and talk to people and learn the basics of journalism was something that I really needed in order for my Northwestern experience moving forward and for my journalism experience moving forward. So it worked really well for me. And I ended up returning as a counselor 2 years later and did it with Rob. So, I mean, Roger, if you want to speak, to that experience a little bit too, considering that you're the one who hosts it, but it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot about the basics of journalism that I did not know coming in. I had a lot of fun. I would totally encourage you to apply. It's a great opportunity and you learn a lot. So.
And we have a website. It's medillcherubs.org. And it's a very complete website that also has the 2021 application information. And it also has our contingency plans should we be forced not to do it on campus this summer of 21, depending on the COVID-19 situation. So, and my email address is on the website. So if you've got any questions, it's a program for rising seniors. So if you're a current junior, 2021 would be your year.
And Roger, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself so that the students know who you are?
I knew I was going to be on the program today. I would address differently, but I do have my Medill shirt here. Yeah, I'm a professor at Medill. The name is Roger Boye, B-O-Y-E, and I direct the chair program in the summers, among other things.
All right. Thanks so much, Roger and Andrew. Okay, so I think in terms of the next question, we have some people who are asking about journalism residency. And so Chris, maybe you could start out by, since you're on journalism residency right now, you could start out by just explaining what journalism residency is, if some of the people may not know, and then also talking about your specific experience preparing for journalism residency and then what you're doing now.
Sure. So journalism residency is essentially an internship program run through Madeill. So basically Madeill will place you in a newsroom for a quarter. If you're not doing journalism at that point, they'll place you at a marketing firm or some other kind of, and basically the premise is you're just doing an internship for credit that quarter instead of classes. So right now I'm working at Retro Report, which is a newsroom that makes historical documentaries in partnership with a lot of other news organizations. And it's basically, my time at Madeill has kind of really prepared me for this experience and has opened opportunities as well. My JR advisor is who's basically the professor who's kind of serves as a mentor for the JR program. I've had him in classes previously. I've had him as a work study professor previously. They're also, depending on what kind of JR you want to go to, whether it's a digital video site, a broadcast site, or a print site, there's sort of a prerequisite kind of list of classes that you might want to take before heading to a specific site or a specific kind of site. So I kind of loaded up on documentary classes and digital video classes before going to mine. Yeah, if there's anything else that you think I should cover, but that's pretty much been my experience.
Thank you so much. I was muted. That's great. And then Andrew and Joey, do either of you have anything that you want to add in terms of prep, or are you good? You're both good. Okay, Andrew and Joey both are to be going on JR, so haven't quite had the experience yet, but have a report soon on both of those. And then I think, Joey, this question would be a good one for you to answer. So Lydia asks or says that she's hoping to learn more about the curriculum for journalism students at Medill, specifically the first year curriculum. So if you want to put on your info session hat and talk a little bit about kind of that curriculum looks like and your experience with it, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. So all first years in Medill take the same core 3 classes. Whether you were the editor-in-chief of your high school paper or you're new to journalism and just really excited to start exploring the field, everyone will have the same foundational experience and baseline knowledge of Medill's expectations for its journalism students. And it's a really humbling and excellent experience. Your first class is called 2011 Reporting and Writing. Everyone will take it with their PA group, which is a group of students you are assigned during Wildcat Welcome, which is our orientation program here. So you've already formed a bond and a connection with these students. The classes are usually 12 to 16 at the most. Any journalism class where you are doing hands-on practical journalism will be capped at 16, which is not a lot, especially coming out of high school where you might have classes that are 30 or 40 students. So you're in this class with your PA group. You're there really to support one another. You have a faculty advisor who's your lab instructor for this class, who in my case is still a major support system for me here at Northwestern. We've Zoomed and you know, during normal quarters, she'll take our group out for dinner, meet up with us in her office on a regular basis. So you'll start building those relationships that'll carry you through your Medill experience and have a really lasting impact right off the bat. And in that class, you do reporting and writing. You learn the basics, or you brush up on your basics. Medill sets really clear expectations for its students about the ethics and its high standards of quality journalism. And after that class, we'll feel really well equipped to go out and conquer the world of journalism, of print journalism. And once a week, you'll have a lecture component to that class with the whole grade, which is led by a very renowned Medill faculty member. And that's where you'll get to discuss. You'll meet everyone in your class, which is really important during that first quarter. And you'll really discover your voice and find out authentically who you want to be as a journalist. That's an ongoing process. I think we can all agree, but you start making strides during that class. And then throughout the rest of the year, you take a class called 2012, which is Multimedia Journalism. Same thing, it's really a foundational class that will give you all the tools you need to go on and excel in the rest of the Medill curriculum, but this time it's multimedia. So you do components on podcasting and audio, broadcast and video. There's even a coding section of the class. So you really do get to expand your media appetite, and you might discover that you really love doing some sort of multimedia facet of journalism that you weren't expecting. And as you'll discover in that class, all journalism today is multimedia journalism. You have to be able to write. You'll be really better off if you know how to film, even if it's on your phone. And then the third course is Philosophy of Modern Journalism, and that one's a little less hands-on. In the first 2 courses, you are producing work on a regular basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. You'll produce stories that you can show to prospective internship employers that summer. But this third class, Philosophy of Modern Journalism, is a lecture class. It's one of the larger ones you'll take it in Medill. And you talk a lot about where journalism is, how it's different from where it was 10, 15, 50 years ago, and where it's going. And I found that that class was particularly helpful for me in the theory and thinking about who I want to be as a journalist and what I can bring to the table, how I can get my peers to appreciate journalism as a public service and what we do. So those are your core classes for your freshman year. And then after that, you can start getting a little bit more specific and start tailoring your curriculum more towards what you're interested in. There's no longer tracks at Medill. You don't have to declare I'm broadcast, I'm print, I'm digital. If you think that you want to have a career that's all encompassing, you can explore all of those fields here at Medill. If you know, okay, I want to go into broadcast, you can take a very broadcast specific curriculum that will make sure you're well equipped to get the best job you possibly can right out of school. So it really does become a lot more open. You have a lot more agency as your time here at Northwestern goes on. And then I always like talking about 301, which is a class you take your sophomore year, and that's called Journalism in Practice. And they have all sorts of sections. You can take sports-specific ones where you look at the dichotomy between White Sox fans and Cubs fans here in Chicago. You can, during normal times, we have global opportunities where you can travel the world for that class as a sophomore, which is a really, really unique and exceptional opportunity. Classes on immigration reporting, on environmental reporting. I guarantee you, if you're interested in something, there is a course section that fits your preferred discipline, medium, or topic. So, and then after that, you can expand your digest and take all sorts of classes from theory to hands-on. And if there's a class that you are eager to take that isn't offered, you can find some sort of independent study, or you can work with Medill to help craft that course. But they cover pretty much all their bases, and anything you're interested in, I guarantee you'll find something that helps broaden your journalistic horizons and feed your curiosity.
Thanks so much, Joey. That was super comprehensive, and I'm sure helpful to everyone in terms of understanding what that core curriculum looks like. I think you alluded to this, but about kind of what those topically based courses would be, or the skills based courses that are kind of more upper level when students have more choices in terms of their journalism electives. Many students have asked kind of what your favorite classes have been. Andrew and Chris, do you all want to chime in some coursework that you've taken within Madeill?
I think for me, actually, philosophy of modern journalism was actually, I think, my favorite class that I've taken. That class teaches you a lot about how to build your own personal brand through social media and through Twitter. You have to start off by making your own Twitter and then kind of like building it from there. So like, I had was not know before, and I deleted that, started fresh, and now I'm using my Twitter now as a senior. Like I have like 1,000 followers, and like I've kind of built my brand and what I want to talk about on Twitter about race and gender and sports and how those things intersect. And because of that class, I built my brand and what I want to do. So I think that class was formative, important. And I also, if I'm thinking of an additional class, I think another class I took that was super interesting was a class about the West Loop in Chicago and gentrification in Chicago. We went down to Chicago and reported on how the West Loop has been gentrified and has changed over time. Also 3 class, like Joey was just mentioning. And I thought that was super interesting. And I think it's also important that it wasn't sports, so I could do something that wasn't in this particular realm that I was interested in, so I could try and broaden my interest in other areas. So definitely philosophy of modern journalism, but then also that 301 class, those are probably my two favorites.
And I would say my favorite Medill is one that I took last fall. The topic was social media video reporting. And I think that goes back to what Joy was talking about kind of being able to tailor the curriculum to what you want, even though you don't have to choose a specific track. If over time you realize that you want to go into a specific subset of journalism, there are definitely opportunities to kind of take classes that will build up your portfolio and your skill set and get you really valuable connections with professors and other leaders in the industry in that regard. And this is cheating a little bit, but outside of Medill, I've also taken quite a few classes that have helped me. So I've taken a podcasting class at Northwestern Sound Arts and Industries program, taken documentary classes in RTVF, which is our radio, TV, and film department. So even if there are some specific areas that you want to explore that you're not finding classes in Medill per se, there is a lot of flexibility in Northwestern's curriculum to kind of fill those interests.
That's a really good point, Chris, too. Thank you so much for sharing that. Chris, could you also just briefly, someone asked about just workload in courses. Do you want to just briefly touch on that and talk about how you've kind of managed your time in terms of Medill coursework, especially kind of the coursework that is more focused on producing work?
Definitely. So for reporting classes, the time commitment can be not intense, but definitely substantial and definitely enough to keep you busy. So that being said, I try to take, if I'm taking multiple journalism classes per quarter, I try to limit it to reporting class and maybe one class more focused on theory. I would also might try to sort of double dip between class assignments and stories that I would do for the Daily Northwestern or student publications. So yeah, that's in terms of workload, that's pretty much been my experience.
I think that's helpful to just to talk about kind of ways that you've found to manage it more strategically. Kind of on that, in that similar vein, and then we'll maybe move away from curriculum for a little bit. But another question that has come up is managing double majors or minors. You can speak to that. So do each of you kind of want to just speak briefly about what your experience has been in having another area of specialization outside of journalism, and also maybe touch on how that intersects with your journalism degree too?
Start. So yeah, my favorite class at Madeill was called Dilemmas of American Power, and it is a journalism international studies crossover course. I took it winter of my freshman year, and that's when I realized how perfectly journalism and international studies intersect, and what I could make out of pursuing those two things hand in hand. And I knew I wanted to go into journalism. A doctor that would support and uplift my journalism curriculum and make me a better journalist. And I think everyone can probably attest to the fact that you can do that with any major, because journalism is about finding expertise in different topics and learning about how to communicate those ideas. So I found really Madeill, the Office of Student Life is Madill's hidden gem. They will work through anything. They want you to be able to have any experience and opportunity here that you could possibly dream of. So they will help make sure that you're going to take care of all your courses. Everything is going to be manageable, that you're not going to overload yourself with that are just unmanageable or, aren't complementary to one another. So if you end up coming here, take advantage of the Office of Student Life, but you'll have their support, you'll have academic support, and it's totally, totally doable.
My second major is in African American studies, and my advice, I would encourage you guys to not come in like being set on what your second major is going to be. Just kind of let yourself kind of fall into it, is what I would say. I personally came in thinking I was going to double major in French, which was just like was not a great idea on my part. But I came in like with that idea, with that vision. When I got to this campus, I wasn't super interested in that, but I started taking African American studies classes because I wanted to know more about my identity in my history. And as I did that, I realized that I was super interested in it. And I took enough classes. I was like, I'm going to minor in this. And I kept taking enough classes. Like, I might as well major in this. So I was like, don't come in like with the assumption that you're going to major in this. Like, kind of figure out what's for you, 8 courses, and see how it goes and figure it out from there.
And I think for me, my creative writing minor has kind of just been an opportunity to do something that I don't necessarily see as, I guess, intrinsically tied to my journalism major, but it does kind of serve as sort of like an outlet and something that I get to do for like fulfillment. And journalism does get to be like difficult because it does at times, regardless of how much you love it. And so I think being able to find a second major or a minor that you're able to kind of just use as that kind of outlet has been really useful for me in my college experience.
That's super helpful. Thank you all for hearing that. So another question about classes that students asked was about what each individual class size is like. Do you all want to talk a little bit about skills-based versus kind of more theory classes and what size those classes have been? And then also maybe there's been some discussion about professors. So maybe in that conversation, you can also talk a little bit about your access to your instructors and what that experience is like.
I can go. I think, well, in terms of the skill-based classes, they're probably gonna be anywhere from like 10 to 15 for people who are more specialized or have a focus. There's a specific focus for the class and people want to learn about that focus. So like I took some sports journalism classes that have been like anywhere between like 10 to 15, like maybe max 20. But then like for like theory-based classes, like media law and ethics, like larger classes, those could be anywhere from like 30 to 35, I would say. But like there are more classes on the 10 to 15 range that are on the 35 and up range. But I would say like connecting with professors is still pretty easy for the most part, because there aren't that many people in classes and like they really get to know you one-on-one, and as you're working on assignments and stories. I've noticed a lot of time they set up times to meet with you and discuss what you're going over, having one-on-one meetings, and really they get to know you, what you're interested in on like a personal level. And I really think that's boded well. Even with remote learning, I still had the opportunity to connect with professors because the class sizes are small. And it's as simple as like walking up to them after class and like, hey, can we meet? Or emailing them and be like, hey, I can't come to your office hours at this time, but can we meet another time? I found that pretty helpful in terms of my classes.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Andrew. Chris, did you have something you wanted to add? Sorry, I don't want to cut you.
Yeah, just in terms of professors, I think even outside the classroom, professors that you get to know make yourselves available for all sorts of help. So they've offered to be references on internship applications. They've offered that about just other facets of career advice and things like that. And so I think the small class sizes really do help you kind of get to know professors on a more personal level, and they helps them get to know your work and kind of what your goals are. And for the most part, they're more than happy to sort of help you get where you want to go.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so I'm going to pivot a little bit, and there have been a few people who have asked about experiential learning programs like Medill in San Francisco and Madeill on the Hill in DC. Do any of you want to jump in on that, or would you prefer that I give an overview? Joey, do you maybe want to talk about Medill on the Hill, and then I can talk about San Francisco, since none of you all have been to San Francisco.
Yeah, I would love to. Medill on the Hill was probably the single best experience of my life. I was there this winter, so winter of my junior year. We were very lucky. It only got cut short by like 5 days because of COVID. We were there during everything that was going on with Soleimani and Iran, and then there all through impeachment, and we each got a chance to sit in the chambers during the impeachment hearings, which was mind-blowing since we were 19 and 20 years old. I was doing a stand-up in the Capitol Rotunda with NBC on one side of me, and I think it was the Washington Post on the other side. It was either the Washington Post or CNN. I was in a press pen during impeachment, standing next to a CNN reporter who I've looked up to for years. And that's every day during Medill on the Hill. It was not even exceptional. I went back to the newsroom and I was like, guess what I saw? And they were like, yeah, we've seen him the other day. And so it is phenomenal. I've produced work that I am so proud of. DC is such a special place, especially if you're interested in journalism and politics. The networking opportunities are really endless. The museums you get to visit, they make sure to cater Medill on the Hill to students so that you're there, you're taking classes, you're getting course credit, you are on Capitol Hill doing stories every day, and then they give you Fridays off so that you have ample opportunity to explore this overburdened or stressed. And if anyone is interested in politics, feel free to ask any further questions, but it is phenomenal. And I mean, you're getting full unfettered access to Congress people, to think tanks, pretty much anything in DC that you are interested in covering will have the opportunity to cover, at least to some extent. And obviously we were there throughout the primary, so we all got to go out on the campaign trail if we wanted to. I got to go back to California to cover Super Tuesday, which was incredible. People went to New Hampshire. People went to all sorts of Super Tuesday states. And you were on the trail. You had your camera gear or your recording devices, and you're really just like encouraged to go out there and take yourself seriously as a journalist. So can't hype it up enough.
Thanks so much, Joey. And thinking about kind of the other coast and the other opportunity in San Francisco, so Joey talked about a really traditional reporting experience that many of our students like to take advantage of. San Francisco is a program that is really focused on the intersection of design, technology, and media. So this is a program that is tailored to students who maybe are interested in applying their journalism skills kind of outside of a traditional reporting context. And so that program typically runs in the winter, but during these COVID times, we're definitely all having to be a little bit more So things are looking a little bit different, but that's typically when it runs, which the same thing for Medill on the Hill. And so students leave for that quarter. They take coursework. As Joey mentioned, you're taking coursework, but you're also kind of actually out in the city and getting to really immerse yourself in LA and San Francisco, or for Medill on the Hill in Washington. So those are kind of the two programs that we have that act almost as study abroad programs, but really within Medill and super specialized to the Medill experience. So if you have additional questions on any of those, we'd be more than happy to talk to you offline about that. I do just want to say there are some questions in here that are pretty specific to an individual person. And I'm thinking that what might be best for those is Andrew, Joey, and Chris, if you feel comfortable putting your email address at the end into the chat box, maybe students who have questions that are specific, one of you and one of your experiences, that might be the best way to answer those. So feel free to just drop those in whenever. And then in terms of thinking about how those experiential learning programs are competitive, they are competitive programs, but you have the opportunity to apply for those programs your senior year, and then again for your junior, and then again for your senior year. So you have multiple opportunities to apply to those programs. And the panel who is kind of selecting students for those programs is really looking for students who are going to be successful in the programs and who their career and align with the program itself, and that the program would kind of help to propel their future career interests. So that's kind of how those decisions are made. But truly, Medill has so many experiential learning opportunities that if there's something that you really want to do, there's enough time to build your portfolio to make yourself a competitive applicant for any of the programs that you might be interested in. So Andrew or Chris, do you have anything that you want to add to Medill on the Hill or San Francisco? It can be something that it doesn't have to be related to your personal experience. If you have anything you want to add. Just thumbs up if you're good. Okay, cool. All right. So then thinking about how you each kind of chose a specific specialization, I think each of you sort of touched on this in your introductions, like how you kind of focused in on one area of media or one area of journalism, but maybe each of you could kind of talk about influences that you had within your first couple of years in Medill that helped to shape you that way. So whether that was an internship, student media, or coursework, each of you have sort of already touched on that, but maybe fleshing that out a little bit more. It sounds like students would really like to know how you kind of made that specialization.
I could start off, but I was able to join the Daily Northwestern my first quarter of college, and I started off as a print reporter. So I wrote a few kind of just event stories, and I was just kind of feeling less fulfilled by that than I thought I would. And I had some kind of video and broadcast experience in high school, but I was also second guessing whether I wanted to go into hard broadcast journalism. But luckily enough, the Daily's video desk was building up at the time. So I had the opportunity to connect with the video editor there and kind of start producing some stuff. And so I just kind of fell into that. And so the Daily's video desk kind of became my home the next few years, and honestly, probably the next couple years for my college life. So that was really useful for me, being able to kind of rely on that really hands-on experience that a student publication will give you, and kind of being able to kind of do that on my own, even outside of a broadcast or outside of a classroom context, was really helpful for me.
Oh, Zoom. I walked up to Northwestern News Network my first day on campus during the publication fair. Like, what do I do? And they handed me a camera and gave me plenty of training. And since then, it's been pretty nonstop. I knew I wanted to do broadcast. Not most students, I would argue, aren't sure what medium they want to pursue. And there's ample opportunity to explore different things, to dip your toes in different publications, to find what niche you and or to sort of have to dedicate some time to each of them. There are lots of niche publications. We're all kind of talking about some of the bigger ones, NNN and the Daily and BN, but there are also ones dedicated to food reporting or fashion reporting or environmental reporting. So if any of those things speak to you, definitely those tracks. For me personally, I knew that I wanted pretty traditional broadcasts. That is what I grew up consuming and what I've always dreamed of pursuing. So there were no barriers to entry. I showed up, I said, teach me what I need to know and let me go run into the field. And that's what I did. So similar to what I said, being able to go do it and to make your mistakes and to figure out what you enjoy doing and what your voice sounds like is probably the best thing Medill has to offer. And you get those opportunities both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And then you can start doing internships as soon as right after freshman year. That's not expected. Definitely available if you want it, and you'll find the support from professors and from upperclassmen and other students as well.
I know for me personally, I waited a little bit before I joined any student publication to figure out what I wanted. I did the reporting and writing class, and I did the multimedia class. As I did the multimedia class, I realized that like I wasn't as much of a fan as I was of writing. Like personally, for me with writing, it's like I can look at this. Joey, Chris, and I can all be looking at the same exact thing, but we can all write in 3 different ways and see 3 different things. And personally, for me, I just enjoy the creativity of being able to write. To take my creativity and employ it and use it, words to tell you a different story than someone else would tell. So that's why I just enjoy writing, just the ability to, you can do it with any type of journalism. Just for me personally, when it comes to writing, just the ability to be creative and write a story in a different way than somebody else is just what makes writing stand out to me. So that's kind of how I got into writing. And then I just went with sports because I just enjoy sports.
Thanks so much, all of you, for sharing that. I think that helps to kind of understand where that clarity comes from. And definitely something I work as a career advisor for Madeill, and something that we talk about a lot is that, you don't have to choose or one specific area of journalism you really focus on within your time at Madeill. And even, your first job is not necessarily an indicator of what your career path will look like within the world of media. So make sure that you are allowing yourself to explore different areas and kind of give yourself the room to do that and the space to do that. So a quick pivot though, I want to make sure that we get the chance to talk about this before the end of our time. Andrew, Joey, and Chris, I think all of you have had different experiences with reporting during COVID and reporting within your student media organizations, but also during your internships. Can you talk a little bit about how COVID impacted that, and if you have any kind of tips or points that high school journalists could kind of take back and apply within their own practice? And maybe, Chris, you want to start off since you're in your JR, right?
Yeah, I think one piece of advice that I wish I'd gotten earlier on in the pandemic is if you have a story idea, that you're excited about, don't let restrictions around what reporting might look like deter you from it. Just try to find workarounds that will keep you and your sources safe. And I was able to do that over the past couple quarters with just doing Zoom interviews and recording the video from that, and kind of trying my hand more at animation, which I've always wanted to do, to kind of still be able to make digital video journalism in a context that was still safe for me to do and readily available for me to do at home. And at my internship, it's kind of impacted. I'm definitely doing, I think, less production work than I would have been doing if COVID weren't a thing, but I definitely am still using my research and reporting skills every day, and I'm definitely still feeling fulfilled by what I've been doing every day. So I think regardless of kind of what the context is, will always be of use, and your interests will always be able to be met if you're creative enough.
Personally, for me, I think the biggest thing I learned through this is that communication is super important. When you're not actually in person, it involves you really reaching out and being more forward about what exactly you need and making sure that you're all on the same page. This past summer, I worked for the Kansas City Star, doing sports reporting for them, and I was in Maryland, so like it was just like it was kind of weird to to do that. But again, I think it pushed me to kind of like really be creative with ideas, especially given the fact that sports weren't actually happening. So I think at the time for me, being creative in terms of making sure that I'm communicating, but also making sure that I'm trying to come up with as many different story ideas that I can, given the environment, and making sure that I'm also on the top of the, like on the ball when it comes to making sure that I'm in tune with what's going on within that community as well. Not being in Kansas City, it made me have to do more research on what exactly was happening there in terms of COVID numbers and that thing, so that I knew exactly what I would be reporting on the people in that community, so I knew what was going on.
Yeah, so I think one really big takeaway from all of this is networking and reaching out to people you look up to, whether those are students or professional journalists. I think people really want to dedicate their time, especially if they're quarantining or have some extra time at hand, to talk to younger people. At the beginning of the pandemic, we saw, spikes in people who were watching the evening newscasts or who were reading reliable, verifiable sources. So I think we see how important journalism is right now in informing our communities. And we all play a part in that, even as students. So taking advantage of this opportunity to learn about what makes good journalism, the people who you see as role models in this field, reach out to them and talk to them. And then, yeah, I think like Andrew said, get creative. Write it in different ways. If you're interested in video, start learning how to make some of those graphics Chris was talking about. Use the time wisely. And I think for me, it's been like telling stories that aren't going to be told and thinking like about the big picture and not just the news of the day. I was lucky enough to have an internship over the summer at NBC Nightly News. I'd worked there previously during a normal internship semester, so I knew everyone. I didn't have to like make that first impression over Zoom, which can be really daunting, but is totally doable. But it was just amazing to see the camaraderie and the teamwork that this newsroom upholds, and how necessary it is to producing TV newscasts during a pandemic. But I think everyone just really appreciates the importance of the work we do right now, even if whether it's to inform or to offer some entertainment or respite from the more intimidating side of the news cycle. So read and consume and watch a lot of news right now and figure out what you like and what you don't like and where you see yourself in a couple of years.
That's awesome. Thanks so much to all of you. Chris, I have a quick question for you. Have you worked in the night lab at all?
I haven't, no.
You haven't. And Andrew and Joey, neither of you have either, have you?
No.
Okay, so as someone asked a question about the night lab and what the experience of working in the night lab would be like, there are several ways to get involved with the night lab, through a fellowship, through coursework. But if you have more specific questions on the night lab, I would love to connect you with a student who's actually worked within this. So I'll put my email address in here as well. And if you want to follow up with me, I can connect you with a student who has previously worked in the night lab and can talk to you a little bit more about what that experience is like. And then we have someone who asked a little bit about Madeill media teams and the work that Madeill does to expand into the Chicago community. Roger, is that something that you feel equipped to talk about a little bit?
Well, for about 12 years or so, we have run a program for Chicago students who are interested in journalism. It's a program that's on Saturday mornings at the Gary Comer Center in Chicago. So, but for this year, so to speak, the train has already left the station. So, but it may be something you want to look into next year or beyond, depending on whether you're a sophomore or a junior right now.
That's super helpful, Roger. Thank you. Okay, and then we have another question about diversity opportunities and programs available within Madeill and within I think it might be helpful to also think about student organizations when you are answering this question, students. And then, so talking about the opportunity to write in other languages or produce work in other languages and version of the paper or other student media in other languages. So we could talk about maybe a coursework and then also student media. So Chris, do you want to start?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is the affinity orgs that we have at Medill. So I'm a member of our chapter of the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association and the National Hispanic, or the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. At the Daily Northwestern, I know that we have a diversity and inclusion team that works to ensure that sources of margin are well represented in our coverage and that people just know how to report sensitively on different given topics. I know that other student publications have similar bodies as well. Yeah.
That's perfect, Chris. And then also you all, the Daily published a couple of articles in Spanish recently.
Yeah, so there's definitely opportunities to produce work in multiple languages. I've definitely done some bilingual reporting myself. Other reporters at the Daily have translated print stories into Spanish. And I'm sure at any student publication that you go to, if you or class, if you propose that idea of kind of wanting to do a story bilingually or in a different language, that definitely to you.
Yeah. Chris also works as a mentor for a fellowship program within the Daily that works to in the newsroom as well. Andrew and Joey, do either of you have anything that you want to chime in on? Good. Okay, cool. So I know that we are getting close to time, Stacy. Do we have time for one more question? Is that good? Okay. Great. So I think the last question, it's in terms of just kind of ending on that I think you can talk about is describing your experience within Madeill and then what you think makes Madeill special. That's something that someone asked before. So if each of you could just talk about your own experience within Madeill and maybe highlight a couple of things that you think make Madeill special.
I'll go for it. I love talking about Madeill. Well, first of all, I see a question in there about the size of Madeill, and the average class size is like 150 to 180 students, which is really small. And Madeill is a community. Madeill is where my friends, my mentors, professors who I stay in touch with throughout my career, that's where I met them all. And my Madeill experience has been so phenomenal. I've been given so much leeway and encouragement to experiment and pursue stories that are really important to our community here at Northwestern. I mean, how often do you get a school that's in a quaint, beautiful college town just a few minutes from one of the most incredible, marvelous cities in the whole world. And I think being able to take advantage of Chicago makes Madeill a really special place because, like I said earlier, there are endless stories to be told in Chicago, and we are absolutely encouraged to go seek out every single one of them. And then Madeill attracts a really special kind of students who are really interested in using journalism as a public service to make the world a better place, to make you help entertainment or knowledge or joy. And everyone is just really, really curious and has a serious drive and ambition. And we all have this common passion. And even if we see things differently or get into lofty debates about best journalist practices, everyone just wants to see journalism done well. So I think, and then beyond that, Northwestern is one of the best universities in the country, and you get to take advantage of everything Northwestern has to offer outside of Madeill and in tandem with Madeill. So Katz, and yeah, I'm sure Andrew and Chris will have a lot to add.
I think one thing for me, probably the main thing, is that Madeill has given me the opportunity to meet so many other students who are doing the kind of work that I want to be doing, and to have really made me think a lot more critically about what journalism can and should be, how I want to approach journalism. And I think my views on that have shifted so much from when I got into Madeill to now, and I think that's for the better. And in addition to that, I think, as Ray was saying, you get the opportunity to report in Chicago, but you also kind of get the best of both worlds of being able to do kind of that big city metro reporting, but to do a lot of hands-on local reporting in Evanston as well, and get to know kind of everything going on here and really build ties in this community. In addition to that, just the opportunities that you get to kind of play around and explore with different kinds of journalism, that you want to do both in and outside of the classroom. The opportunity to meet different people, professors, are really valuable. So yeah, I think that would be kind of the most important facets of my time here.
I think for me, Medill has kind of helped me has allowed me to grow into who I am, but at the same time, like I think as you grow with Medill, Medill grows with you too. I think Medill, I think one thing as great about Medill kind of into the journalism world that's happening as the journalism world and the world itself adapts, Medill tends to adapt with that. It allows you also to figure out who you are within that as well. So I think my favorite part about Medill is just like the ability to grow within it, and the ability to also watch Madeill grow itself. And it's just a community where like you feel like you're really giving back, all the ways they give it back to you through networking, classes, just everything along those lines. So also echoing everything that Joey and Chris said, I aside from what I just said, that's all I have.
That's great. All three of you. Thanks so much for sharing that. Andrew, Joey, and Chris, I'm so glad that you were able to be here and to share the student experience with all of the people that are on this call today. Again, I just want to remind anyone who's on this call that if you have any follow-up questions for me or Andrew or Joey or Chris, all of our emails are in the chat. So feel free to grab those, and then you can also, if you need me to introduce you to maybe another student who has done something that Andrew, Joey, or Chris has not experienced personally, I'd be happy to do that as well. So thank you all so much, and I'm going to hand it back over to Stacy.
Thank you, Fiona, and thanks students for all of that you shared today. I'm sure there are lots more questions that others have, and you may be getting some emails after this. And so thanks for doing that too. I want to announce that Julian Cardenas is our winner this afternoon of the Madeill baseball hat, and congratulations, Julian. Also, we have 2 more programs in our series left, and both are next week. So if you're interested in either of those, one is on sports marketing with Melissa Isaacson, who is a Chicago sports reporter, and the other is on social media videos in your reporting. So I think they're both going to be great. If you want to register, just go to our website, and there's a link on our website that'll take you to the Eventbrite. And we hope you will join us for those. As I mentioned earlier, you'll also get an email from me in about a week with a recording from this session. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great afternoon, and everybody stay well. Take care.